How's it going, Internet? I'm WavePunk, and today we're going to be going over the Overwatch patch notes for July 12th, 2016. The patch notes don't seem to have numbers, they're just by dates. We're going to do that. I said I would be making more Overwatch content in the future, and that begins now. For those of you who haven't seen this before, this is my streaming setup, and I figured for doing patch note videos, instead of like vlogging and like holding my camera and like having you watch me read the patch notes, I just like show you the patch notes because I have a streaming setup now, and that's a thing I can do. So we'll get into it like this. It'll be cool. The mic quality's not as good as when I do the vlogs, but you know what? It's good enough. It gets the job done, right? So as I said, patch notes for July 12th. There's a thing on here about the PTR, which is the public test region. It's a server you can play on if you want to play the patch early. Not something I'm going to be getting into just now. The first thing we're going to talk about is the new hero, Ana. Now, I might make another video about this in the future, so I'm not going to talk about her in like extensive detail. I like the idea. She's a support sniper, which is really cool. She has a gun that shoots bullets that heal her friends and do poison damage to her enemies. And she has a grenade that she pops down that puts a healing zone that gives you a healing buff and creates a healing silence and stuns enemies. It's a cool idea. And then she has this stun gun where she puts you to sleep for a second. And that I'm not like super hot on, which is kind of the only thing I'll say, just because like I think it's probably a strong ability. It just doesn't make sense with the rest of her kit. Like all of her kit's about having one thing that has an effect on an enemy and a different effect on her ally, and then she just has a stun on top of it. And it's like, okay, sure, whatever. It's not a big deal, but that's just my big thoughts. And her ult is a nano boost that empowers one of her teammates to have like take less damage, do more damage, move a little bit faster for time being. Also not really in line with the kind of way they set her kit up to be, but that's okay. So I'm not going to talk about her as much. My roommate and I sat down and thought up a kind of new concept idea for how we thought, what changes we thought they should make to Ana. I might make another video about that in the future. Tell me if you're interested in that. But for now, moving on. First points, general updates, gameplay. If a match goes into overtime for more than 20 seconds, the fuse will start to burn down more quickly. And players respawn more slowly during overtime, increasing your respawn timer by 2 seconds. This is really interesting, and I think this is probably the biggest thing that people who don't read the patch notes are going to be infuriated by. Now, I just want to start by saying I think this is a good decision. I think this is a solid move for playtime. You don't want overtime to be something that stretches on for long periods of time, but it is one of the like highest stress moments in the game when you go into overtime, and to have your respawn timer increase during that time is going to subliminally tilt a lot of people because they don't realize it's a thing that's happening. Also, just the fact that the overtime is going to be shorter is going to maybe lead to some frustration because we have already kind of set a precedent of how overtime is supposed to be. So I anticipate that getting a little bit of social backlash. Maybe people won't realize that it's that's the issue, but it will probably play into some more tilting. But in the end, I think it's a good thing. Second other large point in here in the general updates is competitive play. Matches can now only have one of each hero per team. Now, there's a lot of thoughts that go into this, and you can see here is the link if you want to hear Blizzard's reasoning behind this. You go to this URL and go to this link. I'll put the URL down in the description so you can click it there. If you want to read up on why they thought this was the right thing to do, but ultimately I think it boils down to the reasons I feel like it's a good idea is that Overwatch is a game all about countering team comps. It's we put together a team, then you put together a team, and one of our teams is stronger, and then the team that's weaker picks up different characters to counter that team, and then that team picks up new characters as well to out counter them back and forth. And when you have teams that are playing like 4 of one character and 2 of another character and it's really strong, there's not like a super obvious way to counter it, and it kind of feels like it goes against the nature of what Overwatch is supposed to be, right? So I am glad that it's the thing they're doing. I think it'll make the matches more interesting, and we'll see how it goes. You still will be able to stack as many characters as you want in quick play. You can take 6 tracers and you know, just mess stuff up. If that's your thing, go for it. It's fun. Sometimes I do that too. It's cool. Moving on to hero balance updates. Here's a big thing that we're going to come back to a couple times. Self-healing abilities now charge your ultimate. As a result, some heroes' ultimate costs have been adjusted. See below, and we'll see this as we move through this list. Basically, you have a character like Roadhog who can heal half of his health. That's a big thing he can do, but before it didn't affect his ultimate. Now, that healing will affect how fast his ultimate charges up, and So it was important that we actually make the ult take a little bit longer because, especially in the case of someone like Roadhog, his healing does just so much. And one of the things that this does is that it encourages players to use all their abilities. As you can see here on the first list, Bastion, his ultimate cost now increased by 10%. Bastion's a character that commonly kind of gets health taken care of for him. He has a Mercy or a Reinhardt that keeps him from getting damage and keeps him healed when he does do damage, so he just worries about shooting a lot. But Bastion has a very, very strong self-heal, one of the stronger self-heals in the game, so it's important that you learn and think about using that. Now having self-heal affect your ultimate and how often you get it will incentivize players to use that self-heal more often. I think that's one of the reasons they do that. But yeah, that's the only change to Bastion there. His ult is increased by 10%. The cost of the ult is increased by 10%. Diva, now, got an enormous buff. You can see down here in their developer notes, Diva isn't being selected as often as our other tanks, and we feel like a lot of that stems from underperformance of her damage absorption abilities, namely her defense matrix, which you'll see got changed a lot. First off, its cooldown is reduced from 10 seconds to 1 second. That's a little bit deceiving though, because now there is a new resource meter that has been added. The meter will deplete with defense matrix is active and then recharge when it's not in use. So now I can turn the ability on, which is the thing you would turn it on and then you could turn defense matrix off at whatever time you wanted. But now, depending on how long I let it stand up for, the recharge takes longer. If I let it last the full 4 seconds of the duration, then it takes the original 10 seconds to cool down. If I just use it for a split second, it only takes 1 second. And you can see down here, they rebound it to right mouse button. So instead of it being an ability, it's more like an alternate fire. The idea of being, you shoot a lot, you see the Junkrat grenades coming in, you right mouse button, you pick them up, and you immediately going back to shooting. And so you become a much more versatile character, and it's not as much of a commitment when you turn on that defense matrix. The other thing that got buffed was her self-destruct, her ultimate ability, which her ult actually got decreased by 50%. Now, Diva doesn't have a self-heal ability, so that's okay. Hers got decreased because they just wanted this ultimate to be a little bit more potent. The big thing about, I think the biggest point here is that the ultimate explosion happens after 3 seconds instead of 4 seconds, which gives the enemy team just 1 less second, about 20% less time, 25% less time to reposition themselves away from the ult. So I think that's a good thing. The big problem with her ult is that it's just too easy to see and avoid, and so it just kind of becomes a zoning mechanic. So it's good to see that hopefully with that decrease in time, it'll do more damage, and you can't get hurt by your own explosion anymore, which is lovely, because it always sucks to not kill anybody and then to accidentally kill yourself, and then it just feels like you suicided. So good buff for Diva. I'm excited to see how that pans out. Lucio's ult is increased by 10% because he can heal himself. McCree has now maintains full damage at longer distance, but will deal less damage at extreme distance. This is a little bit confusing. It's like, all right, I do this much damage at close distance, and now at long distance, I still do that damage, but at like really long distance, I don't do that much damage. That's basically what the note says. It is confusing. The point is that Soldier had become kind of the default hit scan character because he did a lot of damage and his range was really strong, and they felt like McCree could do that damage, but his range wasn't as good, so they made his range a little bit better. That's kind of all I really get from that patch note. Mercy's staff got updated, which is actually really cool. Her damage boost used to do a 30% damage increase, now it does a 50% damage increase, and the effects no longer stack with bonus damage is provided by another Mercy. So this is a multi-fold thing. First off, they don't want you stacking Mercies. They want you to only have one type of character. Just what we saw up in the above in the general notes. So they're taking away the advantage of stacking Mercies, and they're just buffing the single Mercy here. And the idea is that they don't want you to default when you want to do damage to pull out your pistol. They want you to find a teammate and synergize with them. The pistol being just kind of a last-minute, last-ditch effort. You're alone by yourself and you have to be able to do damage. That's why she has that pistol. So they buffed that to hopefully make you use that more often. Another big thing for her ult cost was increased by 30%. I think part of this is because of any sort of passive self-healing she does, but also because her ult is really strong and maybe was coming up a little bit too often. So they're increasing that cost there. But on the flip side, they made it also better because now you can move while you're ulting instead of having to stand still and being an easy target. And Guardian Angel, her ability to dash to an opponent or fly to an opponent, instantly resets upon use, which means I can fly into a group of my dead teammates. I can fly in onto one, ult, and immediately start flying to the next one, and I never stop moving while I'm ulting, which would be really, really interesting to see how that works out. I think that makes her a lot harder to kill, and I'm excited to see how much stronger that makes her abilities. So that's fun. Roadhog, his ult Cost increased by 45% because he has like the best self-heal in the game. Soldier's ult also increased by 10% because he has a very strong self-heal as well. His pulse rifle's spread recovery now begins after a short delay. This is a good thing if it means what I think it does, because the thing with Soldier is he had the ability to spray for 4 bullets, stop shooting, and spray for 4 more bullets, and just continue this on. And the thing is, the first 4 shots never had any spread, and if you let go and just started shooting again, it instantly reset, and there was you would never spread out. And so you would lower your shooting, your speed of shots by just a little bit, but you would get in return for it 0 spread on your shots, which made him very, very strong. So with the spread recovery getting after a short delay, hopefully that removes that 4 burst bullet tactic, and people will play him a little bit more consistently. So we will see how that affects things. Last but not least, Zenyatta gets a nice healthy buff that he's needed for a while. His base shields are increased by 50. This is exactly the sort of thing he needs. His big weakness is that he was just too weak. He was too easy to hunt down and kill. So I'm very glad to see he's got a little bit more health. Also, his ult is a bit stronger. He moves twice as fast on his ult, and his health regen, it goes up from 200 per second to 300 per second, so that's a nice hefty buff. And his orbs, his Discord and Harmony orbs, move 4 times faster, so you can just use them more often. This is a good thing. In general, I think he probably will still need a bit of a buff. I would like to see him, like even that 50 health is important, but I think, or that 50 shields is important, but I do think he still just needs a way to keep himself from taking damage a little bit more. We'll see how it pans out. I'm glad to see he's getting buffed though, because hopefully he'll get a little bit more gameplay. He's a really cool character, really cool mechanics. Anyways, that is the big things. There's some UI updates on just how you can do volume rockers and friend requests and stuff, and then a bunch of bug fixes. But these are the big things I wanted to talk about. These are the things that I thought were important for us to discuss and line out my ideas and my thoughts on these changes for you. I'm really excited to see how the new Mercy update, and how especially the Diva update. Diva is one of my favorite characters. She's a really, really unique way to play the game. The fact that you have 500 health, or like 100 health with 400 armor, really strong character there, and the way you regenerate it for yourself by doing damage as a weaker character, something like that. I really enjoy playing her, but it's going to be really cool to see her being stronger and being able to be a little bit more viable in a competitive setting. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this. This has been me talking about Overwatch patch notes. If you have ideas for other Overwatch content you'd like to see, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTuber stuff, and I'll see you guys around. Bye-bye.